Hello, Melissa Crook here with the F.E.E.L Podcast. Welcome to today's episode, Releasing Guilt and Embracing Boundaries, How to Journal Through Self-Doubt with Callie Martin. If you're struggling with guilt from setting boundaries, journal it out. Write down your thoughts. Ask yourself, what is reality? What is going on in my life? Why did I say no? Ask yourself, what are my thoughts? What narrative am I telling myself? Recognize that the stories you tell yourself are not always fact, and you can release yourself of the guilt from setting healthy boundaries. This is just some really practical ways for you to engage with today's episode and really just in your daily journaling activities or just as you're trying to unwind at the end of a day when you know you're needing to find some time for yourself. These are some really practical ways that we have utilized ourselves on our staff, and we hope that you find them supportive as well. Thanks so much for being with us today. Hello, and welcome to the F.E.E.L Podcast this week. I'm your host, Melissa Crook, and I'm back here today with a friend that I met in the last year. You've heard me talk about with a few of my new friends here, these wonderful groups of women that I've been able to join in this Fresno area in California where I live in. And I met Callie through Fresno County Women's Chamber of Commerce. And I love this group and the women I've met there so much. This is women supporting women right there. That's what it is. And it is so much of that. And we met, I think, at the very first meeting. We were pretty new coming into it. And what I love about this too is this is women from all ages and generations. Callie is in my daughter's age range, my 3 daughters' age range, but that's all of us are there, and we're all showing up for each other, and we're all supporting and advising and sharing and promoting, and Callie's heart for what she's engaged with is very aligned with mine, but she has her way of going about it and doing it that is so authentic to her and her story. So I knew from the day I met her that she was going to be a great fit for this platform and that she is somebody I wanted to know and wanted to be in connection with. And you've heard from her on a radio show already, on some panel conversations there and individual conversations. And now you get to meet her on the podcast side. She describes herself as a motivated self-starter and a passion for helping others. Callie Martin, welcome to the F.E.E.L Podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here, and it really is, you hit the nail on the head with the Fresno Women's Group. It was both our first meeting, I believe, and I was like, we were meant to cross paths, so I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, it was really fun, and you know, Callie has had a lot happen in the last year, a lot of life transitions, and we'll get a chance to get her to talk about that. But to start off today, Callie, and this is so much what is driven in what you do, but it had to start with you and your understanding of this. So talk to me about the importance of self-care in your life and how that is unfolded for you.
Yes, well, that is definitely a loaded question because it has evolved significantly, especially as I've entered adulthood, gone through college, all of that. But I would say that self-care is huge and what makes me tick on a daily basis, and not just function and to survive, but actually thrive. Because if the one thing I've really learned through this journey is it's great to take care of others, but if you're not first taking care of yourself, then that capacity is very limited. And that took me a long time to learn because I'm someone who prides myself on putting others first and being able to help others. But in doing that, I was the biggest hypocrite because I was not taking care of myself for a very long period of time. And it's something that I still learn with all of my clients and people that I help on a daily basis. And I truly believe that it's never a set in stone, okay, I've got it figured out. It constantly evolves based on chapters of your life, which you said we'll get into. So for me, that's really one of the biggest key findings is it's essential for you to show up as your best self on a daily basis.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can speak to this too. You know, these are not the scripts we get when we're little girls These are not necessarily the scripts we've watched the women in our life follow. What I love about your story is that you've learned it earlier in life than I would say my generation, your mom's generation has learned it. And I think you've learned by seeing a lot of things, but also so it's happening sooner, which makes me so happy. But also it's still a journey. You still have to figure it out yourself. You still have to unpack that script and figure out what it looks like for you. And that really, I mean, for you to go in the direction that you've gone now, that's not where you started. So talk a little bit about that.
Yes. Well, and self-care itself has shifted for me.
Mm-hmm.
And especially, I'm in the health and fitness space. If for those who don't know, I coach one-on-one, but I also really work with companies on bringing total well-being to the workplace. And so self-care growing up through college, all of that it was the common idea of self-care is a bottle of wine and a box of chocolates. And, we indulge when we can, but it was viewed in my head also as a very selfish thing, because a lot of that they tend to be more vain tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
Not just whatever way you look at it, there's some sort of negative connotation on anything in society.
Yeah.
And it took me a long time, but what I have realized is self-care is about balancing your nervous system, fueling yourself with quality food, moving and exercising not for aesthetics, is what I like to say, or not for the lean, toned, curvy body or number on the scale. Those are great byproducts. But movement and exercise truly is what's going to calm that inner turmoil, allow you to refuel, recharge, and show up for yourself. And this is going to look different for everyone. I
Mm-hmm.
used to think that it had to be a XYZ. I'm in the gym for this long, this many days a week. And if I didn't, that's complete failure. But really,
Mm-hmm.
movement is movement. And so everyone has a foundational base, but how that looks for you to fill your cup up is really going to come on an individual basis.
Yeah. And you hit an important thing there too, where you're talking about that why behind you're doing it, making sure it's a healthy why. I'm doing
Yes.
this to restore, to
Yes.
refresh, to clear my mind, to move my body, to bring that emotional, mental, physical health spaces and health in alignment, not because I'm trying to satisfy a number or I feel guilty because I ate that cupcake so I think that piece of what you do is really important too.
Which does go into a double-edged sword, because
Mm-hmm.
that does not mean that every day I show up, I am motivated to show up. But I show up
Mm.
because of the self-respect, self-care. Like, you owe it to yourself to take care of yourself. Most
Yeah.
days I do not feel like showing up. I don't feel like cooking the vegetables. And so there's two different ways or two different extremes. It's like, and I've been on both, where we
Mm-hmm.
take it and it's punishment because we ate this, or we're trying to lose X amount of pounds, or we're not motivated, so we're just not going to go at all. And it's about finding
Yeah.
that middle ground.
Yeah. I love that. Because that's life. That's
Yes.
life right there. So knowing that, valuing yourself and knowing that you owe that to yourself. I love that perspective to take care of yourself and honor yourself in that way.
Yes.
I love that. That's such a great way to look at that. So talk to me about confidently setting boundaries, because so many times you'll hear from women, especially, I don't have time, or what about this, or how do I do that? But you also have to figure out boundaries for yourself and what they look like and what healthy boundaries, that it's about my behavior, not someone else's behavior. So talk to me about your journey with boundaries.
Yes. Well, a big saying has come from me of progress over perfection. And
Mm,
we can dive into self boundaries, and we can dive into other people boundaries. And really, it will change with every chapter of life. And I like to call them
mm-hmm.
chapters, because just when you have it all figured out, something will change, and then you're
Yeah.
starting over again. But I think the biggest key factor is to understand what values are important to you. And
Mm,
when it comes to what those values are, that's where you're going to want to evaluate your relationships that you have, the people you let in, the social, all the way down to the social media that you scroll, is
Mm-hmm.
that aligning with your values? Because remember, health and well-being is so much more than just eat well, move your body. What is
Mm-hmm.
the content I'm consuming? What are the thoughts that I'm telling myself? And if those do not align with you, that's when it's time to shift perspective, which is hard, or
Mm-hmm.
have those conversations, which can be tough but are needed if it is affecting you on a daily basis, your mood, and how you're able to show up for others.
Yeah, you broke that down really well, because there is those boundaries with yourself that you set of when I'm going to get my rest, when I'm going to make time to move today, when I'm going to take some time for some quiet to decompress. I mean, those, and then there's those relationships, or how many commitments you make, and
Yes.
who you're going to give your time to, and is that in an alignment with your values for the work you do, but also in your personal life, and how those things all fit.
Yes, and this has been something that I've really had to work on, because self-care for me is relatively easy when it does come to I know I need to move my body and eat the food. But when it comes to more of the emotional capacity, and I'm a
Mm.
people pleaser by nature, and I'm someone
Mhm.
who I actually recharge in quiet, whereas some people recharge
Mhm.
socially. So the
Mhm.
what you said of not overcommitting or overbooking is something I've really had to work on this year. And that, to take that a step farther, is when you do say no, to not carry the guilt or, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, they're mad at me. Because it's all narratives that you create. And the reality of it is, if they are mad at you, then it's probably not someone that you should continue to cultivate that close relationship with. Obviously, we have acquaintances and we have relationships, but
Right.
being able to recognize and know that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea, and not everyone is
Mhm.
going to be your cup of tea, and that's okay. And from a people pleaser perspective, that is a very hard thing to come across and realize.
Yeah, that's so true. And like I said earlier, you've transitioned. You're married now, and
Yes.
when I met you, you were still engaged. But part of that relationship and that connection is what brought you here to the Central Valley here in California. I mean, this is not where you grew up, so a lot of changes in your seasons and your locations within that. And
Yes.
then you got married. So you're having to, every time there's an adjustment in your life, a new season, a new chapter, then you have to look
Yes.
at everything and kind of realign it with that. And now as I'm creating these spaces and places to care for myself, to create healthy boundaries, I have a partner to consider in this.
Yes.
Am I communicating well with him? Am I making sure I'm not expecting him to read my mind, and vice versa?
Yes. Well, and since we brought it up, we're recording this at the perfect time, because not more change could happen right now than it has in the 1 year that we've known each other. So, just to give everyone listening a little background, I've now lived in California for 3 years. So, moved across the country to be with my now husband. And in the past 6 months alone, we have gotten married. I am 6 months pregnant, and we are also moving literally next week. And I am also growing and running my own business. So if that is not change,
Oh my
I
gosh.
don't know what is.
So within that, this is a really important point, and I've got a follow-up question for that in a minute. Two things have come to mind here. One, this was when women tend to throw self-care out the window, versus this is actually when you need it the most.
100%. And I have never, I'm in my own trial, and I am very faith based. So luckily, I am
Mm-hmm.
not alone on this journey. But I will say, I was, especially, let's break it down just a physical standpoint for some
Mm-hmm.
perspective. So I was in the best shape of my life, ran a half marathon, and then the next week found out I was pregnant. And obviously, as women, we know whether you've had a kid or have not, I'm quickly learning how fast your body changes. So then,
Yeah.
from a physical standpoint, and then just this stress, not bad stress, but positive stressors of marriage and moving and trying to sell a home. And so it really has been a trial of leaning into faith, and also keeping the boundaries that I have established and following through on them, because now more than ever, I'm so thankful that I set those healthy habits of eating, moving your
Yes.
body, taking time to journal or meditate daily, because now more than ever, I want to put all of them off. But I know I'm not just showing up for myself, and I am now growing a human life. I have others leaning on me. And if I do not prioritize these things, it's not good. And I can tell you, first trimester, some of these habits went out the window.
Yeah,
And
because you're exhausted all the time.
and nauseous. And so I
Yes.
just have to say, God bless my husband, because I picked a good one. He's very patient. But there was a huge difference in the two Callies from first trimester to second trimester now. And the biggest difference, obviously, other than physiological changes, is the habits and tendencies that I did or did not follow through on.
That's really important. And I tell you, this is going to serve you so well. Having established these things at this season in your life so that when the baby comes and you've already got practices in place that work for you. You know what the framework is. Yes, there'll have to be time adjustments and you'll have to work out a schedule to get help and support to help make those things happen, but you know their importance. They've already been established. You've already dismantled the narrative that it's selfish. You know to show up as your healthiest self. These are an important part of your routine. And that is so valuable. That's going to serve you so well because it's still going to be hard to make space, but you already know the proof is in the pudding. You've already experienced it. So there's no talking yourself into it or no having to talk yourself out of feeling guilty because you already know they're going to get the healthiest version of me that I owe to myself and those I'm in connection with when I do this.
And I think it's really important what you just brought up there, because almost no one is going to be encountering all of these changes at one time.
Right.
And so I can already hear listeners, because I get it a lot on a daily basis, of the just wait. Well, just wait until the baby is here, or just wait until. But I want to take a moment, acknowledge and give them their space, but also know I work with women all over the country from all age ranges, anywhere from high school to mom and with 5 kids. And I know from that experience and learning from them, because I'm not the only one educating them, they're educating me as well.
Yeah.
When it is a priority to you and it's important, you will find a way or time block or habit stack. This doesn't mean you need a 2-hour morning routine. It can be 5 minutes, brush your hair. And the women, especially the moms that now have 5 kids, and I coach, they're like, I can tell a huge difference in how I am able to show up for my family by prioritizing this versus before. And that doesn't mean that you need your alone time at the gym. That's great. And I wish we all got that. But include them. Do a home video on YouTube. There's thousands out there that are free. Movement is movement. And so this is more from a physical standpoint, because that's what I talk on most often. But the same goes for incorporating them and cooking a healthy meal together, to taking that time with God or taking that time to journal, whatever that looks like for you. And it's not about, well, just wait, meaning that's going to go out the window. It's how can we pass this on to different generations?
Yeah, because those kids remember what's modeled to them. They do.
It shapes them.
Absolutely. It shapes them. If they see mom taking care of herself, they know that's important. They know that's something they should value. If they're a girl, they know that that's something they will value later on and make a priority. If you have a little boy, then he's going to be like, that's important for moms to do. And it's important for me to honor that and respect that and make room for that and support that. I mean, there's just so many messages that come through by modeling that. I think that's so powerful. The other piece about this boundaries piece is it's really hard to say no to things when you're establishing a new business, because there's this idea that you've got to say yes to everything because you don't want to miss an opportunity. But then you still have to assess, okay, is this an alignment? Every time somebody approaches me because I struggle with this too. Every time someone approaches me with a suggestion, something they want to collaborate on, whatever it is, I take, is this something that aligns with me? Is this something I've already incorporated and I don't necessarily need this? I wish them well. I want to support them, but it's okay to say no to them. Because it's somebody, Valerie Rivera, a friend that I had on in season 4, and we're going to bring her back again next fall. But she said one of the most simplest but important things. Whatever you're saying yes to, you're saying no to something else. So you better be okay with whatever that thing is you're saying no to. And that no cannot be to yourself time and time again, or you will never be able to sustain.
Yes. Well, again, we're recording this at the perfect time because I am, to be honest, I don't want to be a hypocrite. I'm struggling with this week because we have the holiday coming up. We have family events coming up. We have the move happening. My husband is at work. So I'm trying to balance all of this. But on top of that, I also have about 3 networking events that I would like to attend. And I know that there's never been a networking event that I didn't, that I regretted.
Yeah.
And then with just the pregnancy, it's like the fatigue or knowing my boundaries on
Sure.
what I'm not in the same capacity I was.
Yeah.
I am really struggling right now and was looking at my calendar this morning on what am I going to do because something has to give.
Yeah.
And my heart is leaning into that the networking this week needs to give so that I can show up for my family, because one of my values is family and being there for them. But the CEO, the business side, the growth, the competitive ego is like, we can make this work. But I know if we make it work, the end of the week, Callie, is going to be walking on eggshells. So to be honest, I don't have an answer yet. I'm trying to see if I can manipulate and move some things around. But I'm glad we brought this up because that's something for me to keep in mind of what needs to give.
Yeah, and it's so good we're getting this in the moment, because Callie got on and I'm like, how are you doing? And she's like, oof, I'm here. It's already been a Monday. That's life. That's what life is. So when we can have these frameworks that we can look back on and have to rely on to help remind us of, like, you know what, something is going to give. And I don't want to be walking on eggshells because it's a holiday weekend with my family. Eggshells, no pun intended, with it being Easter weekend. So although nobody can afford eggs right now, so it's be squishy marshmallows instead of eggshells. But I mean, either way, sticky or cracked, either way, you don't want to be either way. Yes. And having that, but having these conversations with ourselves daily, taking a look at our calendars and like, what can give? Listen, I'm going to have these network opportunities are not going to go away. So maybe I know what you mean. There was a couple of weeks ago, I was trying to get to a luncheon, and I really wanted to make it, but also I was trying to make it to not disappoint, rather than looking at my capacity and realizing by the time I get there, it's going to be halfway over. I am going to have busted my tail and wore myself out trying to get myself ready and in the right mind space to be there for half of a thing. And when it's okay for me to just say, not today, not today. And it's always a tricky line, because I was right up against it. I'm like, nope, I'm going to trust my inner knowing. I'm going to trust my intuition, and I'm going to say no to that thing. And I'm 55 and I'm still figuring it out. So but that's life. That's life. And sometimes these conversations come up exactly when we need to be reminded of those moments.
Yeah. No, and I'm glad you said that, because the biggest thing I struggle with is I know there will be more networking events, and apply this to your own life, however that looks. There will be more social outings or what XYZ. But what I struggle with and have found and realized the most is, are they going to be mad at me? Just like you said, or like, am I going to disappoint? Or is this a are they going to write me off? And in most cases, you're the one that spends most of the time and the energy worrying about that when they're like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
that happened. She'll be at the next one. But the
Mhm.
people pleasing mindset is like, we're going to
Yeah.
dwell on this for 3 days. And so
Yeah.
that's where it's really been of the shutting that down, whether that's like
Yeah.
physically telling yourself enough. Sometimes what I found is like, because I know I'm not alone on
Mhm.
struggling with this,
Mhm.
physically writing it down, journal it out, and then
Mm.
ask yourself at the bottom is what is reality and what is my thought? Because a lot of
Yes.
times, yes, because when you read the paper, you're like, oh my gosh, they hate me. And then it's like, well, what is reality? They have no
Yeah.
idea what you're doing. They don't know you're running to 5 events. You're doing all these things. And so if you struggle with that, that is something that I would recommend and really helps is stop yourself, write it down, and ask yourself what is real.
Yes, because our thoughts are not necessarily truth, and we treat our thoughts as truth, and that's what gets us in trouble. And 90% of it is something we have circulated in our brains that
Yeah.
no one's going to be mad at us. And they may miss us, but they maybe they won't. I mean, they might not even notice. Not in a bad way. Just
Right.
life. They'll guess that life came up and life is happening and she's busy and we'll see her next time. I mean, it's always so much simpler than we conjured up in our heads. And if it isn't simpler, that might not be a group you want to be affiliated with. So
Yeah.
keep that in
Well,
mind as
and
well.
yeah, we're not egotistically wise. We're not the star of everyone's world. Everyone is
Absolutely.
the star of their own world. So 2 seconds later, they're not even thinking about you. And like as insulting as that may sound, it's also a relief because it's like, well,
Yeah, it
they're
takes the
not worried
pressure
about what.
off.
Yes. So it's like
Oh
let
my,
that ego go and tell it,
yeah,
okay, you're safe because it just wants to protect itself. It's like, no, you're
yeah,
fine. You're important, but we're just moving on.
yeah, 100%. That's really well said. Thank you. And this goes nicely into you're dealing with all of this right now, taking care of our mental health, emotional health, physical health. You are in a wave of emotions right now. Welcome
Yeah.
to it, my friend. I mean, it is just a circle and things like you're like, what is happening to my body and my mind and everything right now? Because there's nothing like it going through it the first time. And so
Right.
it's one thing to manage it on the daily, just in general, but you're in this whole season of managing it. So, and it's all connected. Like we can feel it in our bodies when we have not moved things through. And I know how aware you are of this. So, talk to me about your journey with when you understood or recognized that mental, emotional, physical health connection and how it's informed how you operate in the world now.
Yes. Well, and it's still not perfect because, like you
Yeah.
said, I'm going through it over here right now, and
Yes, you
God bless
are.
my husband for being patient, a very patient man. But I will say that that is one of the most important things is having a strong support system. And that is not, and I know that not everyone has that, but that does not have to mean it is a spouse. It could be a parent. It may not be a parent. It could be a friend or someone in the community or someone, a mentor. It could, God, whatever that you feel a strong relationship or someone you can trust in your life, that is huge because when you can voice those, and I'm not saying call your friend and trauma dump all over them,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
when you have someone you know who's in your corner, it makes it a
Mhm.
little easier to start to navigate or voice or be like, hey, I'm going through this and I don't really need to dump it on you, but just know this is what's going on. If you could check in every now and again. The
Mhm.
other thing I will say, full transparency, that has helped me in my journey is therapy. And
Mhm.
I am a huge advocate for therapy. And this is actually something for a long time I avoided like the plague. And
Mm.
I thought that it showed weakness, that there was something wrong with you. And furthermore, I've learned I spend a lot of time in therapy and
Mhm.
just like life, there are chapters. So I'm not saying I will
Mhm.
never be back there, but it's not a negative connotation. And there's a huge
Yeah.
difference if you're someone who has never gone before. There's a huge difference between like psychiatrists and even just social workers or counselors. And
Mm-hmm.
I personally prefer the social worker or counselor just because it's more so someone to talk to as a non-biased third
Yeah.
party and help you work through your thoughts if the journal is not working for you. And
Yeah.
I will tell you, it takes a long time. Well, it doesn't, it may. There's a shortage of
Mm-hmm.
professionals out
Mm-hmm.
there. So, and not everyone is a fit. So I will tell you,
Yeah.
do not give up on your first one. I did give up on the first one and then went on a 2-year hiatus because I was like, that was
Mm.
embarrassing. But let
Mm.
me just tell you, it took about 5 or 6. I even got ghosted by one completely.
Wow.
Trauma dumped my whole life into the intake form, ghosted me, and then 8 months later was like the reply email of, "Hey, do you still need someone?" It's like, no, I know you don't want to. This is not
Yeah.
yours. But what I'm
Yeah.
saying is, I don't say that to scare you off or anyone looking for that. It's don't give up on the first try. Again, just like with
Yeah.
life or relationships, you're not a fit for everyone. But therapy really did help me. And what it helped me more of is not someone else telling me what I need to do. It helped
Mm-hmm.
me to uncover my own tendencies so that I
Mm.
know when I start to spiral, I have certain tendencies. And now that I'm aware of them, when I see them start to pop up, it's like, okay, my self care tank is running very low. I need to
Mm.
change something ASAP, or this is going to get really ugly really fast. And
Yeah.
then on top of that, one thing that now that I'm not seeing someone, one thing that helps keep me in check is I do about 5 minutes of journaling in the morning, whether that's a
Mm-hmm.
prompt or just brain dump, whatever's on my heart. There's Pinterest, Google, they have thousands of journal prompts. And then
Mm-hmm.
I also start with my day with either reading the Bible or like a 5-minute mindful meditation and quiet
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
before I dive into emails and social media and all of that. And the days that I do, the days that I don't, my tone for the day is completely different from one another. So
Yeah.
I would say that talking to someone and journaling, the morning routine have been the biggest changes. And then obviously you have those healthy lifestyle choices, eating, getting outside, touch some grass.
Yeah.
So it plays a huge role in all of it, and it's all connected together.
It is. And it all has an impact. It all feeds off each other. I'm so glad you said that because even today, even though we've come a long way with this, there are still those stigmas around therapy. And I'm glad you pointed out the different kinds because it's important to know that so you can know, get an idea of where you want to start and what you're looking for, but be intentional. Know that everyone's not for you. You're interviewing that person as much as they are learning about you and really approach, just like in a job interview, when you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. Same thing with your practitioner, whether it's a therapist, a doctor, whatever it may be, finding that right fit for you, building that trust, that connectivity. I've had to do the same thing. And I think my personal opinion is like, I think everyone can benefit from some sort of therapy
Oh,
because
yes.
of just what you said, though, even if you're like, I don't have a lot of trauma or in my background. Like we all have tendencies. We all have cultural narratives that we've got to overcome, especially as women. Even if we had a very healthy background, there's still those narratives that are there that aren't serving us that we need to unpack. And even just knowing recognizing the cues. Like I love what you brought up about the cues of recognizing when you're hitting your max point and how you can, oh, that's coming now. Okay, I didn't miss it this time. I know what to look for and I know how to respond to this rather than
Yes.
having it creep up on you and then having to apologize and clean up the mess later.
Well, I'm glad you said that because that was two things that were really big for me is I grew up very fortunate, well raised, like there's essentially no trauma in my life. And that's where
Mm-hmm.
I felt even more that therapy was not for me. And
Mm.
because there was nothing bad has happened to me, and I'm very blessed and thankful and aware of that. So I felt almost guilt or like
Mm.
I was insufficient to go. But I'm
Yeah.
telling you that it's not something's wrong with you. I learned so much about think of it as you're not going to therapy because something's wrong with you. You're going to talk to someone who understands thought process and patterns, and they're going to help you
Yeah.
uncover yours. Because
Yeah.
it doesn't mean that you've had a huge life event or something bad happens, but you're going to start to learn and understand how you tick, why you do what you do, and how you can be more efficient in managing yourself. And
Yeah.
in turn, the cool part about that is now that I know all the things I do and what else is out there, I also have that much better of an understanding of why my clients or why my relationships and those people, why they're doing what they're doing. It's not a personal attack on you or something that you did. It's they're trying to figure out how they tick as well.
Yeah, it's such a good point. When you have those tools, you've done that work yourself, you're more empathetic and you're more in tune to because you're not disassociated from those things. You're in tune to them. You are then just more capable. You're capable of being
Yes.
in tune with others. And so it's one of those benefits that you're not necessarily looking for going into it, but is a natural occurrence because of how you've engaged with yourself. That's such a good point. Thank you so much for that. All right. How we can support ourselves and other women in living unapologetically. So much of your work is built around that with helping people with their health. And you help a lot of women in this area. But talk to me about your journey with that, what that looks like for you, and then how you're able to help support other women in that as well.
Yes. Well, this is, like I said, the journey is never over. Whether that is in figuring out who you are, setting boundaries, even health and fitness. Like when you hit that goal weight, that's only when it just begins. It's like we don't stop all those habits and just say, okay, we made it.
Right.
So I'm still on this journey. And I think the biggest part of it I'm currently experiencing is through the entrepreneurship. And because I'm going on 2.5 years in, which is still very young in a business.
Yeah.
And for a long time, my belief, just from seeing society, and this is not a bad thing if this is you, but it was you go to school, you go to college, you get your degree, you get a job, and then you just work the rest of your life to pay bills. And that's totally fine. Like there's a lot of great jobs out there. I work more now for myself than I did in my own corporate job, which is great. But whatever you choose, like make sure it's something that you love doing or that does fill your cup, because when you put yourself in a box and you're like, well, this is all I'm capable of because this is what X, Y, and Z says. This is where my degree is. So my degree says I have to be here. That don't be afraid to take chances or step outside of your comfort zone. And it is scary because I will say walking out my last day of the corporate setting, I was in human resources before this, and jumping into a full-time business of my own, nothing is certain. And so I feel like every day that you have the courage to show up, and you talk about it as living unapologetically, which I love. Every day that you have the courage to show up, you're inspiring yourself, but you're also inspiring others. And if we look at society, the way that we progress and we move forward is through the people that take chances, they take risks, and continue to grow and develop. So whether this doesn't mean you need to go start your own business, but maybe it's just in learning a skill or developing a new friend. Any way that you can push yourself outside your comfort zone, living unapologetically should be uncomfortable. Because when we are comfortable, we are not growing. And
we're stagnant.
Yes. So you should be growing. And so that could look like friendships. That could look like raising children. That could look like getting out and somewhere to an event or some mom's group that you've never been before. But living unapologetically goes back to the you owe it to yourself to get uncomfortable, to show up, to learn new things. And then all of that passes on to those around you.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you so much for that. So good. And again, I love so much that you know this now, because this is just going to serve you so well. Like I said, doesn't mean it's not hard, but it gives you that framework and that background and the proof in the pudding to know that this is something that works, that this is important for me to continue to evolve and continually grow through the journey of life I'm in, to continue to be my most authentic, healthiest self. So good.
Yes. And if it's my thing, my motivation to myself, and this is within reason, so please be smart, but is if it scares you, that is probably what you should do and lean into it, because a lot of time the fear tries to keep us safe or direct us the opposite direction to protect us.
Yeah.
But if there's something that you've been wanting to do, whether it's run a 5K or go meet at a coffee shop with a friend, but you've been nervous or a little anxious to do so, extend your hand and go do it.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. And I talked about this a lot. I just talked about this in the conversation I was on before this, is that your nervous system gets used to what you've been doing. So it will send you cues of discomfort when you're doing something new. And sometimes we recognize those and think, got to pull back. Instead, no, you got to bring your nervous system along with you to let her know, no, we're going to operate this way now. This way, we've been this way. That's fine. It served us then, but it's time to move forward now. So I think it's important to remember that too.
I love that.
Yeah. And that's where those nerves and that nervousness is coming from. And so it's like, it's okay to bring her along. That's not the same as like, ooh, my intuition, this is dangerous, trusting ourselves in a moment of, so discerning between that. But yeah, discomfort does not equate to I shouldn't do it. And
100%.
Even thinking about that. Okay. Thank you so much. So good. All right. You've touched on this already, but I want to swing back to it. The importance of setting and coming back to your why and your values and what you do and staying true to that. You talked about earlier that values piece, and knowing that plays an important role, and knowing where your boundaries and healthy boundaries need to be set. But talk to me about that understanding that how you got there, and that how you came to know how important this piece was in your journey.
Yes. And this is so many good things happening this past week, because I was on a panel group a few days ago with a woman, and she put it the best way I've ever heard it is, we were talking about networking and anyone who's socially anxious. But for why and how to get over it, she said, you have to surrender to your mission. And I've never heard it put that way before, but I'm
really writing that down. I love that.
Surrender to your mission. And what she means by it is that whatever you set out to do, your why has to be a greater than your fear. And so for me, the why of starting my own business is I looked at the opposite of, do I want to be and again, I don't say this negatively, because if this is you, that's totally fine. But I personally didn't want to be in my cubicle until retirement, or going up, punching a clock every single day, for me and the way I operate. So for me, my why was better that I can get out and help people. But maybe for you, your why is as a mom, or as a sister, or as a wife. And there's certain things in that aspect that make you a little uncomfortable or nervous to do to help that relationship grow. And so you have to remember, is my fear or my nervousness greater than the why or purpose that I am living on a daily basis? Because we all have a reason, no matter how big or small that you personally feel it is, you have a mission. And so whenever you're able to surrender to your why, or know that your why is greater than your fear, that's going to allow you to act on it.
Oh, that's so good. I love that so much. That's such a great way of putting that. Thank you. All right. Living out of your own expectations versus others, which is, again, feeds very nicely into this. You walked away from the 9-to-5 stability, benefits, all that thing, all those things. You got the degree, you hit that. I mean, so many of us got that script of go to college, get the degree, get the job, meet the partner, graduate, find the job, get engaged, get married, have the kids, buy the car, all those things. Yeah. And it's like, okay, is that, within this, you have to unpack at some point the parts of it that are working and the parts of it that you need to adjust to fit who you truly are, to meet that why and those values of what you truly care about. And so you stepped outside of that and took a chance on yourself, which I love. But it's also that, having to balance that expectations piece, especially when you're moving, when you're self-aware to know I have a people pleaser tendency. So even this week, what you're going through of, I need to live out of my own expectations and not what I have told myself, or I know whatever the case may be, others are of me, and allow that to drive me. I need my expectations, my values, my why to drive me. So talk to me about the connect point that has with all of this and your expectations journey.
Yes. And I think that's where a lot of the self-care, because there's two aspects I want to hit on this. There's a lot of the self-care I feel like has the connotation of, oh, we throttle back and we're really like the box of chocolates, the wine, the hot bath, all of those can be deemed like, at least in my head and connotation, as lazy, air quotes, lazy, which I'm not saying that those are the methods of self-care that you should use. But I think that knowing that plays into knowing the expectations you have for yourself is my expectations are very high for myself. And I can guarantee that no one has higher expectations for me than I have for myself. And that can be a blessing and a curse, especially
Absolutely.
Because you're going to be a self-motivator and self-starter and get stuff done, but you can also get to the point of running yourself into the ground and burnout. And for a long time, what I was deeming as others' expectations of me, meaning like, if I quit this job, or if I do this, or if I do that, people are going to be disappointed. It was more of, I was not allowing my expectations to fit the time of life that I was in. And I was putting my thoughts as other people's expectations. When again, if we go back to the fact of, you're not the star of everyone's world, you're the star of your world. And while I'm not saying that you should be lazy and a couch potato, is most of those expectations and pressure is simply coming from yourself and not the outside view of others. Because others, as much as they want to see you succeed and do well and contribute to society, they're not micromanaging you and making sure that you're following and checking every single box that society deems you should. Now, you're always going to have a few people that have their comments, and that's fine. We're all entitled to our opinion. But most of your expectations, you have to align those with your values and know, are my expectations something that are too high right now? Or do I need to listen to myself and give a little bit of grace?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, even within that, it's like, so I mean, you're in a season of massive change right now. So, so meeting yourself where you are in the moment. This might not be the year where you have a huge explosion of clientele in your business, because that would not, necessarily serve you in this season. You've got to make sure you've got enough energy for all the spaces, but that might be more 5 years down the road or whatever it is. So meeting yourself where you are and adjusting yourself and being good with that. Nobody has failed. Nothing's going wrong. We're just meeting ourselves and being realistic about where we are and accepting that, acknowledging that as part of, these are the layers that are showing up right now. And these are the things that we need to make sure are addressed. So I think that's a really, it's that healthy perspective of adjusting, flowing with the seasons. And I always tell people, when you're feeling out of alignment, go back, look at your calendar, ask yourself, is my why, are my values, is the season I'm in, what's happened? What's adjusted since I last paid attention to these? Since I last set my calendar according to these? Because it's letting you know something's out of alignment. Something needs to be moved. Something needs to be changed. Something needs to be given up. Something needs to be handed off to somebody else. Something needs to be put on, this is for later. Or so that you can make space for the new things that are coming in that weren't there when you set that why, values, calendar, priorities, 2 years ago. So, being aware of that and being okay with that. And so we are so hard on ourselves. I'm so glad you brought up the grace piece. We see this as a failure, and like, no, you're not, it's not and I'm as guilty. Like, I'm saying no, like it's ridiculous. I've done this to myself my whole life. So total, transparency here. But it's that we got to reset. We got to realign. We got to meet ourselves where we are today. and show up accordingly to that. And when you've done the work and you know yourself and you know your value, you're able to do that without judgment, without fear, without beating ourselves up because we know, no, this is a season shift. So we gotta shift with that. Yeah, I think
And
that's
and you can show up more effectively in what you're doing when you remove that pressure.
Absolutely. 1,000%. It's going to serve you well. It's going to serve everybody you serve well and that you're in relationship with. 100%. So good. All right. Accepting the layered aspects of ourselves, all the pieces, all the parts of ourselves that make up who we are. We've talked about a lot of those layers already today. And the importance of, for me, this is the key component, even though I don't talk about it first in the order, it's the key component to everything else falling into place because we prioritize what we value. And that has to start with you and knowing and accepting and acknowledging. We don't have to love everything about it, but having an acknowledgement and removing the judgment and replacing it with curiosity and acknowledgement. So talk to me about the layers piece, and you're in the thick of it right now.
Oh yeah. Well, and I'm glad you said that because we don't have to love every bit of it because the layer for me specifically right now that I'm most struggling with is the physical aspect. And not, I am very, and this is again, speak out of both sides of my mouth because I am so thankful and so blessed that my body is growing a human being, which is amazing. And one aspect of me is so in awe at the changes in my body. And like, I didn't even know it could do that. But
sure.
The physical, I'm a personal trainer. And I was in such a confident place. I'm not saying I'm not confident now, but I was in such a fit perspective. We just got married, ran a half marathon, like feeling my best physically, that in seeing how fast my body changes in 6 months, it's like, this is definitely not the same body. So not having to love, and I know a lot of women struggle with the physical standpoint specifically, so that's why I want to talk about that, is I don't love the way that I look right now. But I do know that my body is doing amazing things and serving a much larger purpose than aesthetically. And maybe you're not pregnant, or maybe you've already gone through it and you're just struggling with weight or menopause or hormones, whatever that looks like for you. Is every single day that you get to get up and you have the ability to walk or use your legs, or that body is serving you. And I don't want to be a hypocrite because I'm struggling myself right now with physical appearance, but really replaying and focusing and changing of, I love what it is able to serve for me because I know I am having a little girl. And one thing I've realized through this 6 months is I never want her to hear me say like, I'm fat, or I can't eat that, or these pants make me look, because she will hear that. And that directly impacts her own body image. So I feel that God is preparing me right now, saying, Callie, get yourself together because you're beautiful in all of your shapes and sizes, and your body's doing amazing things no matter what stage of life you're in.
Yes, that is so good. I'm so, and that awareness, because it is hard. I relate wholeheartedly to this. I ran track in high school and some in college. I was very fit. When we got married, I was very fit. I worked out until 3 days before my oldest was born. Like, I was at the gym every day, probably allowed me to go through the 26 hours of labor that I did because I was so fit. But I struggled wholeheartedly with that so much. Like, I was not the woman that wanted to have pictures taken of my belly, or that was, I just wasn't that person. I was like, this is a means to an end. And this is a necessary part. And I understand that. And I also don't love it, but I accept it. Yes. And so, and that's okay. And I had a great recording with our friend, Marissa Zuido earlier today. And she talked about the fact that she talks a lot about the fact that we don't talk enough in front of all of this. We have all these expectations of rainbows and flowers and butterflies. And also it's really hard. And a lot of things are happening to our body, and it's a big adjustment, and it's a big change. And it's not always going to feel good or be fun. And we're not always going to be like, oh, I was not I love being pregnant. I was not that. I was very much, this is what we have to go through to get here. And then I'll have this baby. And thankfully someday this baby will talk and be able to put on their own shoes and get their clothes out. And then we'll go out and have some fun. Now I still took the baby out. We went out all the time, but I wasn't the woman who was in love with, I had friends. I knew people that were in love with being pregnant and in love with just holding and cuddling their babies all day. It was like, let's get pregnant. Let's have the baby. Come on, kid, let's go. We got life to live. We gotta get talking. We gotta get moving. I know that sounds crazy. My husband loved the baby stage, but I think it's important to speak truth to that, because like I said, I have friends on all parts of this spectrum.
Yep.
But it's okay to name what's hard. It's okay when you have the baby that you're like, here, take her. Because if I don't go take a shower or walk outside and smell something besides poop, I'm going to lose my freaking mind. So please take her so I can refresh, renew, and get back to a good space. And I want to give you all of that upfront now, because it's okay. And it is a balancing act, because I also have friends and women that I've had on here that have gone through infertility journeys, and they're just not able to have children. And so I always follow this up with, I am very mindful of that. And it's a nuanced experience. So yes. I can both be grateful, but also be honest about my experience, but also be mindful when I am around women that I either don't know their experience or I do know their experience. And either way, I'm mindful and respectful and kind. And I'm thoughtful about where my safe spaces are to talk about these things and be open. But my hope is that we can create open, honest conversations for women to feel safe in all the spaces and all the experiences. We're removing the stigmas and the preconceived notions and the cultural narratives that create harmful spaces and assumptions. And I think it's so important. This is all part of that layers journey of your own layers and others' layers as well.
And I'm so glad that you said that, because I also have a lot of friends right now who are dealing with infertility. And like, obviously I'm very thankful for my own, but I was like, if I could do anything to help you out, I would.
Yeah.
But I also love that you said is we're all, and we talked about this on the panel before, is we're all in this journey. And even though all of our journey looks a little bit different, as women, we're all going through the same things to certain capacities. It's going to look a little bit different. So I love to hear someone else say or talk about how I'm very thankful and I would not change it for the world. But there's also certain aspects that maybe I'm not the biggest fan of, but I know that it is part of it. And I'm thankful that my body is capable of doing so. So I think that's huge. And that applies to so many other aspects of life as well. Just being a woman, whether that's going through all the way from going through puberty to going through menopause, like that opens a whole array of things that everyone experiences. But as women, we all are on a similar journey of some sort.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. And I think there's been so many years of so many predetermining factors of us being told what we can and can't talk about, when in truthfulness, no, we need to open the door and create safe spaces. We can talk about it. And it's by talking about it that we know how to help and support each other. And we know how to create safe spaces for ourselves and respect what others' safe spaces might look like. And holding the nuance. Again, we want to make things black and white, this way or that way, right or wrong. And there's nuance. And within your story, you're going to find what your good and bad and right and wrong is, but that doesn't mean that's someone else's, because it is unique. I mean, there is there uniform things that we all need to agree on that are good or bad in society. Yes, of course that's true. But we tend to take that too far sometimes. We tend to moralize things based on our own story when someone else's story is entirely different and that just doesn't apply the same way to them. And so taking that, again, curiosity versus judgment, empathy, and curiosity opens the door for empathy and kindness and patience with ourselves and acknowledging those things. But yeah, you don't have to love every layer, but we need to not shame it. We need to not be embarrassed and shove it down like it's something we can't, you know, talk about, because there's also all these body shaming issues that exist around women's bodies, and this plays a big part of it too. And so again, listening to yourself, acknowledging what is my comfort,
Yes.
and what do I feel safest, most authentic within this, and for the things that feel a little more unhealthy, get curious. What do I need to unpack here? Because something feels like it's holding me back in an unhealthy way. So let's take the time to unpack that. So,
Yes,
as
exactly.
always, yeah, so many layers, but also important to talk about them and let them all breathe and have their space. Yeah, so good. All right. In living out F.E.E.L, finding empowerment, embracing layers, you have got a great handle on this at this stage in your life, which I love seeing. I'm getting to see my daughters learn this as well. And it's like 25 to 30 years sooner than me, which I'm so thankful for, because that means we're starting to steer the ship in the right direction for women. And it's you're having a daughter, you're going to be so well equipped, in what you've learned, and she'll learn more things and keep, that realm going, that, continuum going. But you have learned how to do this. It's so powerful. And talk to me about the impact that has had on your relationship with yourself, as well as your relationship with other people.
Yes. So, in finding the empowerment.
Mm-hmm. And embracing layers, that whole thing.
Okay. I would say that, again, it's always a work in progress, but it has really helped, one, with self-love and self-care, but I view it more as, because self-love and self-care to me, they're great, but I think they're a bit overused and they have several different connotations in society.
Yeah, the phrasing of that we have to be very careful with.
Yes. So I like to view it as self-respect, or the you versus you. Like, you don't need to look like a Greek goddess. You don't need to be a fashionista, but taking care and pride and respect in how you nourish yourself, both physically, mentally, how you move, how you talk to others, how you listen, is you deserve to operate your highest self. And when I realized that, rather than this whole nother story, but I went through quite a while with a really bad food relationship where I was trying to just become my smallest self. And that was not nourishing me. And that was not self-respect. This goes both ways, from an overweight standpoint to unhealthy, trying to be small standpoint. And what that has allowed me to show up and help with others is when I coach my clients, or when I have friends, they don't even have to be clients, that are talking about themselves. It's a safe place and a safe community where we can unpack, what am I going through? Why am I feeling this way? Well, I saw so-and-so on social media, and how can we navigate all of the highlight reels of other people's lives? Because the highlight reels, you're not seeing the full picture, and you're seeing edited versions. And so when we're able to unpack and know that no one's perfect, we all have things that we're dealing with. And likely, I had this conversation 2 weeks ago, is the one thing that you want, your best friend probably wants the opposite. So one of my clients was like, oh, my friend, she has had 5 kids and she's so small. And I was like, yeah, she's small, but in her eyes, maybe she thinks that she's too thin. And literally the next week, her friend reached out to me and wanted some help with coaching. And all three talked about it. And we're like, see, you're comparing, because that's what we tend to do. But really, from each other's eyes, you think she's perfect, she thinks you're perfect, and you're trying to become each other. When we create this community or have this space, and I can help them walk through that, we're truly better together, and you're not on this journey alone.
Yes, yes. And you take out the competition and comparison because that's what keeps us apart. That's what keeps us from coming together. All these narratives that we create in our head of what must be true instead of what's actually true. And then when we know what's actually true, we know how to show up and support each other in it. And that's where the good stuff, that's where the magic happens. And when you feel good about you, it changes the way you show up in your relationships.
It
You know,
does.
you don't need someone to make you happy. You want to be with those people. You choose your partner, your friends, your coworkers, whoever it is you're in, who you choose to be in relationship with. It's a choice. You're not operating off of a insecurity of like, I've got to earn their love or I've got to show up, I've got to make them happy. No, I know what I want. I know what I need. I accept and acknowledge all the pieces and parts of that. And then it allows you to show up authentically and healthy in relationships instead of
Yes.
asking something from them that they were never meant to be.
Your goal is not to depend, speaking of a spouse specifically, but this applies to friends as well. Your goal is not to depend on them. It's to come together to elevate each other. It's like you can be great by yourself, but what could you do with that person?
Mm-hmm.
And that was the biggest shift too, that for me is because I'm an independent woman. I don't need anyone. I can do everything all by myself. I don't need any help. And it was when I realized that we can go so much farther together, whether that is a friendship or a spouse or whatever that is. You don't have to carry everything by yourself, but that does not mean that you get to dump everything on them and expect them to carry it.
Yeah, and fix it for you.
Yes.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely. So good. I remember this goes way back. My husband and I have been married for almost 32 years. It'll be 32 years in August. And he said to me one time, thank you. He said to me one time, and this was really, he's like, you always say I, and I always say we. And I'm like, I was so used to depending on myself and taking care of myself that it's like, I'm still having to like switch that gear of like, it's okay that we are a we, and that's a good thing. And I can trust you with that. I can trust you with me, and you can trust me with you. And there's safety within our relationship in that way, but that you're not asking me to be anything I'm not, and I'm not asking you to be anything you're not. But I was like and I was like, that was a really important part. And that's again, a big adjustment to make when you're in and especially as women, where we're always kind of, trying to find that balance of, yes, I'm for myself and I can totally take care of myself. I don't need someone. But also when you're in relationships, people like to feel like they want to feel like you want to be there, that you want to have that connection, that you want to have that. And, so, and because actually my husband and I, when we were dating, we broke up for a while when we were dating, and I've told this story before, but he's like, I want you to want me. I don't want you to need me, because I came from a background of a lot of codependent enmeshed relationships and believing that, without a man, a woman is not complete, whole, all that garbage that I had to unpack. And his statement of that was eye-opening, shocking, heartbreaking, and also one of the most important 9-month periods of my life, because I went on that journey of getting okay with me and believing in me and knowing I could take care of me, and that my relationships were a choice. I didn't need that person. I wanted to be with that person.
Yes. Well, and I'm glad that you said that, because from my experience personally, it hasn't been with my husband, but I am a huge isolator when it comes to like friends or even family. And so realizing, and I have a whole community now, but that community has honestly been the most pivotal thing in my life. And I never thought when I made it, it was for fun on the side, but is realizing like, we don't have to go through it alone. And I still tend to, my tendency is isolation when something goes south, but I don't have to isolate. And that doesn't mean it's healthy. Because truly, whenever you can walk through it together, or you can go through and have the direct conversation, that's going to
Yeah.
take you so much further than just continuing to carry the burden on your own.
Yeah. Yeah. And people want to show up for you. And that reciprocal support that you have for each other, because we were even those out there that are introverts or more shy, we're still designed to be in community. You have to decide what that looks like for you, what's healthy for you, and make sure you're taking those moments where you do need to refill your cup. I have those in my family who are introverts or extroverted introverts. So people think they're extroverts, but honestly, they need to go home and decompress and be alone for a while because they've been extroverting all day long. I mean,
Yes.
And so, so meeting yourself where you are, but that's different than isolating. I'm like, no, I got this. I can figure it out. I don't need any of you. I'm not going to burden you. Leave me alone. Let me do this. And that isn't healthy either. And so that, recognizing that again, and it's just that understanding the choice in it,
yes,
and the power of that. Yeah. So good. So much good. All right. Oh, Callie, you are so good at this. I knew you would be. All right.
Thank you.
We're down to the rapid fire. Name 5 activities that nourish you, and hang on to these. You're going to need to remember these over the next year.
Okay. Yes. 5 activities: reading, and these are not the ones you would think from a personal trainer, but reading, going to local coffee shops, grounding, so getting outside at least 10 minutes every day, preferably touch some grass. And then the other ones are walking or working out, and then quality time with my spouse.
So good. All right. And 5 words on how you want to feel the next 6 months.
Oh, I want to say mindful, and giving myself that grace, empowered, so building confidence, all that's to come, strong, nourished, all in all capacities, and stable. And I don't say that as like stable in a comfort zone, but stable as secure with my decisions and the choices I'm making.
I love that. And knowing that you have the resources within you. I think that's really, you have built this capacity, you've done the work, and you've got those resources. And that even those things are swirling around you, you've got that foundation, you've got that stability through these practices that you have generated and developed in knowing, and because you tend to all the pieces, you tend to the mental health, the emotional health, the physical health, the spiritual health. Those are all part of your journey, and those have all been tended to. And that can create stability even in these seasons of vast change you're in. And it's, it's so important to have that to fall back on. Oh my gosh. Well, tell people where they can find you, how they can follow you, how they can work with you if they'd like, or if their corporation would like to work with you, because you do both.
Yes.
And all of this will be on our resources page, embracinglayers.com. But share people right now, real quick, before we wrap up today.
Yes. So you can find me on all platforms, Callie Pierce, CALLIE PIERCE. My Instagram handle is @CallieFit Wellness. So my name, FIT Wellness. And then also I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. If you search for our group community, that is a free Facebook group called Team Callie Fit, and that is loaded with free resources and positive women all over the country, just looking for a place where they have a safe area to better themselves. So don't hesitate. That is the easiest way to get in contact with me. If you cannot find that, again, follow me on Instagram, DM me. But I work one-on-one with people, and I also work in the workplace as well, really encompassing both together for a personalized total well-being throughout all aspects of your life.
So if you work with a company, tell me real quick what that might look like. Give an example of what that might look like.
Yes. So, having been in HR, when I do go in to work with companies, I focus a lot on the benefits that they already have and how we can utilize those to bring more of a work life balance to their employees. And in turn, this is going to drive culture, retention rates, lower medical costs, lower work comp. And that can look like with that on a physical basis, where that's on site group workouts, or we come together for wellness committee meetings. I handle all of their email marketing and communications for wellness tips, topics, and focal points. And so it really is taking all of that benefits work off of the HR's plate, who already do so much, and really how we can engage with our employee and team database to make being at work more enjoyable and a place that they love to be.
Yeah. And just knowing that they care about the whole person. And also, I would add in less sick days when you're tending to people's overall wellness. And
That
the
is
company
one of them.
wins. Yeah, on all the arenas. Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to make sure people understood that. So much value in that. I think that's so great. All right, ladies, Callie has given you a great set of things to think about. And she's in all of the seasons right now. So I hopefully this helps you like, oh my gosh, me too. And I'm so glad that we got to meet you in this moment with this, because go back, listen back, write down these resources, take care of yourselves, know your value, at that self-respect, that knowing that you're worth the investment and that everybody wins, especially you, but all the people you love as well. When you take the time to invest in yourself healthy, from just not just a physical standpoint, but mental, emotional, physical, doesn't have to be the big things. That 10 minutes of grounding she talked about, getting outside and smelling the fresh air. Right now in Fresno County, it's orange blossom season. Step outside and the orange blossoms are just wonderful right now. I wish we had that year round, honestly. Oh my gosh, so wonderful. But whatever that thing is, make space for that and know that there's people here to support you through it. If you want to take a look at, you need a better framework and more something that's going to really help you and guide you in this space, then we've got resources here for you. Again, go to embracinglayers.com, go to that resources page. Thank you, my friend, for being here with me today. I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for listening. I hope to see you guys again soon.
All right. Take good care, everyone, and have a great week. Hello, Melissa Crook here. Thank you so much for joining us on the F.E.E.L Podcast today, Finding Empowerment, Embracing Layers. I hope you found today's framework and resources supportive and informative. To learn more about all that we offer here at the Embracing Layers Network, visit embracinglayers.com. You can go to our contact form to schedule me as a speaker for your next conference, workshop, or seminar. You can go to our book page to order our book that Jessica Garrison, our wonderful and talented writer and author, authored with my support. And engage with this framework in written form, with your journal, or in a book club with other women, inviting them on this journey with you. You can look at our resources page for all of the helpful and insightful resources our guests offer and share. You can find the schedule for our weekly Together We Feel women's panel conversations that we're holding each Monday on our YouTube channel. And you can find the links to all the spaces and places you can follow, engage with us on social media, and join our engagements that are happening on our Substack site. There is also a donation page where you can donate to support our work to ensure we can continue to bring you these incredible guests, conversations, and support. Thanks again for joining me this week. Share with your friends and give us a review on your favorite listening platform. Your feedback helps us ensure we're bringing you the content that will best support you and having an empowered, embracing layers journey. Take good care, and thanks for giving us some of your valuable time today. We truly appreciate you so deeply.